Hi everyone and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and this is a neatly yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi, hello, thank you so much for joining me for this new episode. I hope you are all doing very well. Already mumbling my own words. Thank you so much for joining me. I noticed a few new English-speaking people joined after the lovely Lerge of the Fiber Tales podcast mentioned me. She was really sweet. So thank you so much for joining in. I hope you enjoy the podcast and I'm very happy to welcome you around here. You will probably notice that this is nowhere near as peaceful as the Fiber Tales podcast. I'm a little bit more messy, but somehow we managed here. But I have a little episode for you this week. It's supposed to be short and sweet, but as usual, I tend to ramble a little bit. So I have a few things to share. I have 2 designs to present to you, 2 new pattern designs. I have 2 works in progress, and that's about it. I think I will start with one of the designs. So you can find timestamps to all the different sections in the podcast down below. So if you want to skip anything, if you are not interested in a section, if you see that I start to ramble about anything and you don't care, feel free to look at that and jump ahead. I also put links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media and patterns for sale on Ravelry. Voila. I'm looking over there because as I was recording the French version of this episode, I've been attacked by an ant who sneaked her way in my room. But that should be done now. So I hope we will not be interrupted by any other type of animal or insect. Already not talking about what I'm supposed to talk about, which is the latest designs I've put up on Ravelry. So hey, I have 2 new designs to share, and the first one is one that I uploaded on Ravelry last week, I think, and it is a pair of socks. It's the Orsan socks. So if you are new, hi, hello, welcome. I have been working on releasing a little spring collection for socks. So I wanted to design 3 pairs of socks that featured some sort of intricate looking design, like cables, lace, twisted stitches, something nice and fun that would encourage people to just try and make textured things, because I just love putting textured things everywhere. I just wanted to allow people to make small-scale projects. And so I started in March with the Adali socks, which is this pair of twisted cable lacy sock, which was the first pair of that collection. Then we moved on to Pristine, which is a more simple sock design with seed stitch and a leaf lace pattern. We will talk about this motif again in a bit when I will be talking about my works in progress. And finally, the last pair that I just released is Orsan. So this time it's just lace, the simplest lace possible, and it's a really sweet and easy design. I sort of did it backwards. The first design was the most complicated, then it was a little bit more simple, and then it was even simpler. So it's like I kind of tricked you that way. If you were able to make the first ones, then you were perfectly able to make the second ones, and then these ones are going to be even easier. So I guess I just wanted to convince people that they were able to do more than they thought they would. So it's really no big deal. I had testers that were complete beginners, sock knitters as well, and they did great. So It is perfectly accessible, and it just makes these cute little lacy socks. So you start with a picot border, which is very simple, but you can make it a different way. The way I do it is I just cast on my stitches normally. I use the German twisted cast on because that's what I'm used to, and then I make the picot thing, and when I fold it over, I just pick up the stitches from the cast on edge to reattach it, basically. I do this because I much prefer it that way. You can absolutely make a provisional cast on if you prefer. That way you don't have to pick up stitches from your cast on edge. But I found that if I do that, this line is way too sloppy and the picot border doesn't hold as well straight up on my leg. So I prefer to keep a little bit more structure here. So that's why I don't advise doing the provisional cast on method. But if you know that works better for you, absolutely. I had testers do this. I also had really clever testers who put in an elastic. So elastics are a little bit hard to come by at the moment. But if you want to put an elastic in just before you close the border, so that basically it retracts well and holds your leg, that is totally doable. You just need to be a little bit more Birds are insane at the moment. We are being under attack. Birds are stealing our cherries before they're ripe, and so we are a little bit. Stop. It's like they're making a competition, and some of them were just fighting over a cherry. So, again, rambling. Elastics are a good idea if you're a little bit more capable sewing type of thing, which I am not, but it is definitely a possibility. So yeah, I just much prefer to do it with a normal cast on. That's really a personal preference. I just wanted to talk real quick about casting on, because I found that a lot of people when they cast on, they have a really tight cast on. That can be problematic in these situations, but in a bunch of other reasons. Especially if you're using like a fragile type of yarn. I had people who were using Holzgarn Super Soft, for example, for the first time, which is a very woolly, a little bit more weak type of yarn. And I had people telling me that they could never cast on with it because it was breaking all the time. And I didn't really understand why, because I never have that problem. I suppose I must cast on in a very relaxed manner. So yeah, I just wanted to give a little tip that you should really cast on as loosely as possible. Even if it looks sloppy when you do it, it's gonna get neater once you knit a few rows, and it is much preferable for you to have a loose cast on rather than having it too tight. And the way I ensure that my cast on is loose, I have several ways of doing it. Like the old way of learning, the way I learned to knit years ago, is that you would cast on over 2 needles so that your stitches would be loose. I found that this is not really useful per se, because you end up having big stitches, whereas what you want is the stitches to be spread apart from one another. And the way I do this is, say, if I cast on, I'm gonna do a long tail cast on. I'm using my index finger here and I'm placing it over the needle, and when I put my stitch in and I tighten it over the needle, my index finger is blocking it. See, I am not tightening the stitches so that it sticks right next to the previous one. Instead, I'm using my index finger to block it, and when I cast on, this ensures that I have like almost a centimeter between each stitches. It's not perfect, you see, but you really want to have the stitches spread a little bit apart so that your cast on is not too tight, and that will make your life much easier, especially if you plan to pick up stitches from it, like in this situation, in case you don't want to do the provisional cast on method. So yeah, In any case, it's really easy to do, and then you go on to this lace panel, which is like you have these motifs to the side which are mirrored, and in the center this sort of scalloped motif, which I found it in a stitch dictionary, and it had I think it's a Japanese stitch dictionary, and it had bubbles here. I removed the bubbles, yeah, and it just makes a little funny scalloped asymmetrical thing, and I do think that it looks really cute. It's really easy to knit, really simple lace, basically yarn overs and simple decreases, and it just makes a really neat little socks. And you have 2 heel options. I did a German short row heel here because I kind of wanted it to look more like a dainty type of socks. But most of my sock patterns have 2 heel options. So in this one you have sorry, I have a bit of fluff on my nose and it's itchy, and you're not supposed to touch your face at the moment. So 2 types of heel to choose from in the pattern. You have the German short row heel, and then you have the traditional heel flap and gusset, and I included an eye of partridge type of heel flap, but obviously you are free to modify it. Yeah, and then a rounded toe. I'm not very original with toes. I know there are many more toe shapes. I just like random rounded ones. I just think they fit me better. They're easy to knit, and yeah, I'm just not that attracted to other type of toes like this, the ones that have stars shapes. I found them cute, but I don't know. I'm not really attracted to them for some reason, so I just stick to my normal rounded toe. So yeah, this is my little spring sock collection, and it is now complete with the 3 patterns. For all of them I used Opal sock yarn, the standard 4-ply sock yarn by Opal, the German brand, and yeah, it just makes really nice socks with a great stitch definition, and it just works perfectly. So yeah, so Arzan is now also available on Ravelry, and I will finally be able to give all of those socks to my mother, who has been asking for them for weeks. Like, she's always like telling me about, these socks that you posted on Instagram, wouldn't you happen to have a pair for me? So yeah, I was always like, just wait, I need to use them. And so I can now give it to them. It will be an early Mother's Day present. Yes, because Mother's Day in France is quite late compared to the rest of the world. This year Mother's Day is 7th of June, I think, which I personally think is outrageous, because beginning of June is my birthday, like on the 1st, so like now I have to care about my mother on the week of my birthday. It's like, why? Joking, obviously, but yeah, I will give it then to her, and hopefully she will be happy. I'll do that after I finished recording. But yeah, Arzan is on Ravelry, and I hope you like them. I am going to move on to my second design, which is a design I just published on Ravelry, and it has been a long time coming. This is a sweater that was supposed to be released a month ago, but due to the quarantine situation we kind of had to push it back and figure things out with it. So this is Telluric, and ta-da! I just published it on Ravelry. So this is a collaboration with Aimée of La Bien-Aimée. She contacted me a while ago, asking if I wanted to design something with one of her new yarns, which is Helix, her Helix base, which is a blend of Falkland Merino and Goatland. And so I said yes. So she kindly sent me some samples to try, and then we came up with a design, and now it's published. And this is an amazing yarn. I talked to you about it back in like February when I was designing with it. I really love it. I do love Gotland, and I found that this base works really well for rich colors. So Gotland has that sort of metallic shine to it, that greyish silvery tone, and when Eme dyes it in rich tones like this green, this is emerine, it is so intense, and it has that shimmer which isn't picked up by my phone camera obviously, but if you ever have the chance of seeing Helix face to face, I highly recommend that you take a special look at the deep saturated colors. So I have seen other designs with it, including the little cowl I presented to you on the latest episode. The original sample was knit in Helix as well, and the deep purplish reddish colors were gorgeous. Yeah, it really shows well. It is extremely soft as well, it's really nice. So it's a lace waist, it has 600 meters per 100 gram, and it's just really soft and beautiful because of the Falkland merino, obviously. You just have the easy thing of the merino with the really interesting shine and a little bit of halo of the Gotland, and I think that's a really good mix. So yeah, at the moment Eme has Helix in her online shop, so just in case you come across Paris at the moment, her shop is not open yet, but that is why we had some trouble with the release date of that sweater, is that she and her team have been working really hard on making things stay afloat basically, and she was able to have a really nice array of Helix in her shop, so she has it on her online shop at the moment, and you can have a look at it if you want to try this yarn. I will talk about yarn a little bit more basically later. Basically, this sweater is holding Helix double, so this is a fingering weight / sport weight gauge, because I have held Helix double throughout, and as you can see, this works really well. The two strands just blend really well together, and it makes this really beautiful smooth colorwork. It just works really well. It makes a great fabric that's even, like, I mean, look at that. I don't knit that evenly. I don't knit that well. Let me warn you, I'm not that good of a knitter, and it actually is so even throughout. There's not one stitch that's off. That's not me. That's the yarn. This is what we keep saying when we say that rustic yarn, more natural woolly yarns, are so easier to knit with when you're knitting colourwork, because the tension just figures it itself. It just stays where it is, and it's just really smooth and makes the most beautiful fabric. So I will wear it later. It's just that I have to explain the construction to you. So if you were there back in like February when I was knitting on it, you're probably already gone, because it is quite a beast to explain. The construction is fairly simple. It just has a lot of small details, so it's a lot to talk about. Let me tell you this sweater. So it's a bottom-up drop shoulder. You start it with the hem, which is seat stitch, and you get this marred effect by holding one strand of each color together. Basically, that's what I did. I did one strand of my main color, one strand of my contrast color, and knitted it in seat stitch. You knit this flat, and then you join in the round here at the back, and then you start knitting the body in the round with the colorwork motif. The colorwork isn't difficult. It's inspired from an older sock design of mine, which is the Alienor socks. I sort of revamped it so it would fit the sweater, and it doesn't have a lot of floats to catch. It's pretty intuitive once you get it started, and yeah, if you put markers between each repeat, which I recommend in the pattern, and I don't say it just to annoy people. Whenever I have colorwork designs that are on larger circumference, because this is a sweater with a lot of ease. It's a big, chunky, like cuddly sweater, so it's quite big. I do say in the pattern just place markers because it's much easier. And then I always have someone tell me I had to restart because the colorwork was too difficult, and then I put markers on and it was much easier. I think yes, that is what I say, to put markers. It's just so much smoother, especially when you have like lots of stitches. The stitch repeat itself is not that big. You can see that it's just this, but it's just makes it so much easier when you have a marker, so that you can check that you're on track, basically. So the colorwork is really really doable. I had beginners knitters, like first time colorwork curds, and they did great. So you knit in and around until the armholes, and now the fun begins. So this sweater has 3 little steeks. This was designed with people who are afraid to steek in mind. So you have steeks for the armholes and 1 steek for the neckline. In the pattern there is a video tutorial showing you step by step the steeking method, from the moment you cast on extra stitches here to the moment where you clean your mess basically and sew the steek edge to the inside of the fabric so that it's smooth and just stays nicely. Everything is recorded in that video tutorial, just so that you can follow it and just do exactly as I do. I recorded myself while I was doing it twice because I had to do it in both languages that I use. So yeah, it's a really thorough tutorial and my testers really liked it. If you happen to be on Patreon, I also put it up there, so you might have seen it already. Yeah, I really believe that sticking is not complicated. And if you're afraid of it, I think that this type of construction is better to start with, because in case you mess up, you cannot mess up, but let's say you're drunk, your kids are running around, and at the moment where you're cutting your steek there's an earthquake and you just rip off. You know, that is the only scenario where you will mess up your steek. But if that happens to you, first of all, sorry, I hope you're okay. Second of all, it's only the armholes, so you have the entire body that's safe, you know. It's not as big of a commitment as cutting a whole sweater to make it a cardigan. So basically I hope it's a bit reassuring that the steeks are small. They're only on the armholes, so there's really nothing difficult about sticking. You just need to know how to do it, and like I said, there's the video tutorial to tell you how I personally do it. There are different ways, obviously, but in case you're a novice, I hope this helps. So yeah, there is also a video tutorial regarding the neck steek. So when you keep knitting from the armholes until the neckline, and the neckline is a bit of a square, like it's a rectangle with smooth edges. I wanted to have a more open neckline for this, but it not to be too low, just be a little rectangle basically. And you knit in the round until the point where you need to bind off for the neck. And here I did another video tutorial showing you how to set up the neck steek. It's fairly simple, but basically, yeah, you just put a little steek here, you bind off basically the neck stitches for the front, and then you put a little steeking so that you keep knitting in the round for the shoulders. And here I did the video tutorial explaining how to just continue the motif. It's something when you are knitting something that has a motif, whether it's colorwork or it's lace or it's cables, sometimes you have decreases shaping in the pattern, and most of the time it's not feasible for the designer to tell you exactly how it's gonna look and what you should do, basically to tell you what to do with the motif. That is because, well, two things. First of all, if I force you to make a certain number of rows, that is, if instead of telling you knit the body X centimeter or inches, I tell you knit X amount of repeats, so you have to stop at a given row. This means that you cannot adapt the length to your preference. What if you want it cropped? What if you want less ease, so you're not picking the size that match your armhole, or more ease? What if you just want to adjust the length to your personal body? If I force you to stop on a certain row, you cannot do that. And on top of that, it's quite impossible for you to get the row gauge right. Row gauge is really the biggest enemy of designing garments, I feel, because it's really, really difficult to get it right, that people will have the same row gauge as the designer specifies. And this is really frustrating because a lot of knitters won't understand why something is ill-fitting or won't work, and they'll think that they're bad knitters, that they did something wrong, or that the pattern is poorly designed, which, you know, happens. we make mistakes more often than we'd like. But whereas the only culprit is row gauge. And that is why I prefer to just do as if you will not have the same row gauge, because you will not have the same row gauge. So yeah, it's just, there's these two things basically. I want you to be able to adapt the length to your needs and your preference, and I want you to be able to have something that works even if you don't have the correct row gauge, which is really difficult to get, especially in colourwork, especially with me. I notice a lot of knitters have trouble having the same row gauge as I do. My stitches are square or something, I don't know. But I seem to have a peculiar row gauge. In any case, that is why for this portion here, I don't tell you stop at this row so that you do it like this later. I think that's not really nice, because it forces you to have a certain length for the pattern, for the body, for the armhole, and I just don't think that's realistic as a designer. So what I like to do is explain how things work. So that is why when you get here basically and you have bound off for the neck, you need to decrease here a little bit, and you need to maintain the colourwork while decreasing. And so I have made a video tutorial. It's really a bit of common sense, but I feel that people are more reassured when we show them the common sense thing, because sometimes you need a little bit of guidance, right? And so I made the video showing you how to find where you are on the chart so that you can continue even though you're removing stitches little by little. Again, this is easier if you have the markers separating the repeats. But yes, so this is another video that's in the pattern, is a little really basic guide on how to maintain a motif when you're decreasing, so that you can have the right measurement, the ones that the pattern say or the ones that you want for yourself. You have the freedom to make the sweater as you want. So yeah, you knit until the shoulders. Following that, it's really just on that side basically. There's just one spot on a few rows where you need to do that, but it's fairly simple. Like I said, 3 needle bind off all the shoulders, and then you pick up for the sleeves. And the sleeves are in stockinette with the main color. So I originally, this was the plan. The original design was this, to have the colourwork on the body and the sleeves in stockinette. When I started knitting the sleeves, I thought, well, why wouldn't I do the colourwork again on the sleeves? I have enough contrast color. So I started doing this, and I think I did like half a sleeve with the colourwork, and I looked at it and it felt like I was knitting a costume for some sort of historical movie or something. It was a bit too much. It was a bit too much colourwork, and with these big motifs, you know, it's quite something. And so I ripped it off and I started the sleeve again in stockinette like I planned in the first place, and that was the right call because I think this just makes it look much more modern, in my opinion. And so yeah, this is in stockinette, and you decrease until the cuffs, and the cuffs are knit just like the hem in the marled sit stitch, using the two colors. Something to consider for the sleeves is, since it's in stockinette and the whole body is in colourwork, you need to make sure you get the same gauge. This is commonly the thing in designs with a portion in colourwork and a portion in stockinette. You want the same gauge in both. Some patterns have different gauges. I think that's a bit messy, but the idea is to get the same gauge. If not, you're gonna get the wrong size basically. Personally, I don't need to do anything for that. My gauge is very, like, it's the same in stockinette and in colourwork. But if that's not your case, and when you do the sleeves you notice that the fabric is too sheer or that there's something wrong, it's not the right size, just go down needle sizes. That is what you should do. It's perfectly normal. So take a smaller needle if necessary. You can also pick up less stitches if you want. That's the advantage of drop shoulder sweaters, is that you can make the body one size and the sleeve another size, depending on the type of ease you want on either. This sweater, you will see when I put it on, is a lot of ease everywhere. Lots of white sleeves, white body, white everything. I just wanted something really, really comfy. Obviously, the measurements in the pattern are the finished measurements, so you choose whatever ease you want. And then finally, the end of the design is everything is finished with an I-cord. So you bind off in I-cord for the sleeve cuffs. You pick up the stitches around the neckline and make an I-cord, and you pick up the stitches at the base of the sweater and make an I-cord, because when you knitted the seat stitch it was like this basically. So at the end you pick up stitches everywhere all around the edge and you make an I-cord. This so that the whole sweater looks really neat and finished in a similar manner. So yes, I did it. These are all the construction detail for this sweater. That's a lot. So yeah, overall, I think you understand. It's a really simple construction. It doesn't have a lot of shaping, doesn't have short rows here. You can put some in if you like, if you can do that. But I wanted the construction to be basic, but just to have fun with a lot of little details and to help people venturing into steeking. So I'm gonna put it on to show you the fit. Like I said, I wanted it to be boxy and oversized. And so back to the yarn. So like I said, I held Helix double, which makes it a fingering weight gauge. So if you would like to get Helix, like I said, it's a really beautiful yarn and I really recommend. You can have a look on Aimé's online shop, but there are I wanted it to make really clear how you can substitute for it. So it's written on the pattern page and it's explained in the pattern, I hope. Basically, I held Helix double. So I'm just gonna show you the ease of the sweater. Like I said, it's really quite a lot of ease. Yeah, that is the overall fit that's intended for this sweater. Obviously you can modify it. You will be able to see that some of my testers have a snugger fit because it fits their style, and so that is really nice to see. But yeah, mine is baggy, sorry. I like wearing clothes that are too big for me, my little weak body. So yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, the fabric that Helix make when it's held double is really nice and drapey, and it's basically a fingering weight gauge. So what I recommend, in case you can't get Helix, because that sweater requires quite a big quantity of yarn because you have to hold it double, you can use a simple fingering weight, and that works just fine. It's written in the pattern. You can just use 2 contrast color of fingering weight, and it works really well. For the marled effect here, my testers figured out a clever way that I put in the pattern, is that you can you do color work basically. If you use fingering weight yarn, you just make 1 stitch in each color, and because it's seed stitch and you alternate knit pearls, it's gonna make a similar effect. So, and then you just hold your fingering weight normally, a single strand, to knit the rest of the body. And you can also obviously use any lace weight you like. For example, Holst Garn Super Soft or Coast would work really well as a substitute for Helix, as well as last episode I told you about Filcolana Saga yarn, which is lace weight as well, 100% wool. Yeah, just pick any lace weight you like. You can also use and hold it double, or you can also use 2 lace weight. For example, you can take a strand of Helix if you like it, and you can hold it with a strand of another lace weight or a mohair, for example, and hold it double. The mohair effect can be a good idea. In color work, it's gonna blur things, which, you know, if you don't want as obvious as a motif as this, because it's quite in your face, right? It's quite the thing. It's a good idea because it's just gonna blur things really nicely, and yeah, it's gonna make it more wearable for you. But yeah, these are ideas for yarn substitutes. You can get a simple fingering weight. You can, if you want to try Helix, and hold it with another yarn as well if you don't want to get everything Helix. But yeah, that is my recommendations. You can check my testers version, who used a bunch of different yarns to get an idea of what can be done. And yeah, I hope you like it. I have been talking about this for 40 minutes. I really like this sweater. I have a few designs that I'm really proud of, but this one, I don't know, it's really striking, I guess, and it's still pretty easy. So yeah, I really like it. I think it looks really cool, and I'm really proud of it, and I hope you like it too. I can't wait to hear what you think about it. I would love to see more versions of it, and yeah, my testers all did wonderfully. You know, with the sticking tutorial, with the thing I told you about, following the motif when you decrease, I was ready to help them in the middle of the night if anyone had an issue. But they all just did fine. Some of them were more beginners, some of them never did color work, most of them never sticked, and so I was like waiting for them to get to the sticking part, ready to help them. I was like, what are they doing? Are they okay? Are they gonna do it? Did it go wrong? And they just ended up posting or sending me pictures of the sweater all sticked and finished, and said like, oh, this was really easy, it's done. I was like, what? You did it, you're fine, I didn't need to help you. So yeah, no one panicked in the middle of the night, and everyone did great, and so I'm really happy to have succeeded in making it accessible, and yeah, I hope you like it. If you do and you'd like to knit it right now, the sweater is 15% off, the sweater pattern is 15% off until Monday. So it's the code Telluric, which Telluric, I don't think that's the same word in English. Yes it is, what am I saying? Because in French we don't write it the same way, so it's Telluric. I just don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, that is my thing, not being able to pronounce my pattern names at times. But yes, with the code Telluric, it's gonna be 15% off, and it's gonna be written in the description in case you need to check that out. So, hey, that is it for my design talk, and I'm going to move on to my works in progress. My throat is so dry. That's like when I record podcasts, then I basically cannot speak for a day because my voice is dead. Maybe I should drink in the meantime, but no. So, I just wanted to quickly show you some progress I have done on my test knit. I am test knitting a pattern for Sari Nordlund. It's her Florence top, so it's a tank top, sleeveless top, vest, insert your nationality here, a cardigan basically with this all over lace motif, and I am test knitting it for Sari Nordlund, and yeah, I have done some progress. I am almost done with the body, so it's bottom up as well, and you knit the bottom band at the same time, and I just need to do a few more rows and then the last buttonhole, and then I will be done with the body, and then hope I have enough yarn. I am still in doubt. I have 2 skeins of yarn. So this design is a decay weight gauge, but you can use a fingering weight yarn and hold it double. So that's what I did. And I'm using Samite by Blacker Yarns, which is the blend of woolly woolen spun rustic wool with silk. And I love it. But it's discontinued. And so I had 2 skeins. It should be enough, but I'm still afraid it's not. So I think I have used a bit less than half. I haven't finished the body. Yeah. Then I will split for the fronts and the back. And basically on the front, the button band does this really nice thing where it sort of makes the lace disappear and it becomes the straps over the shoulders. So yeah, that is the plan. I hope I have enough yarn. I've been taking it up frequently and going faster on it because I have my boyfriend and I have been catching up on some series that we've been watching, and so it is good TV knitting because I just have the little chart of the lace on my phone and I just knit it up. So yeah, it's fairly simple. The lace is on the right side and on the wrong side rows, but it's fairly small repeats, it's intuitive, it's simple stitches, it's fine. And yeah, I think I'm going to be able to finish it pretty soon if I have enough yarn. The test knit ends at the beginning of June. Hopefully I won't have to find another yarn, but that should be okay. And yeah, I think I will show it to you again once it will be completed and when the pattern will be released. So yay, so that is my work in progress, my first one, and I have a new one. Yay, a new work in progress. I have been contacted a few months ago by Katia Yarns, which is a Spanish brand of yarn. They contacted me asking me if I wanted to test some of their yarns and see what I thought about it, and eventually share it with you. And I said yes. And the thing is, for me to be able to review a yarn, I mean to not review per se, but I mean to get a grip on how a yarn is and how I like it, and to be able to tell you as much as possible about it rather than just showing you a little swatch and the skein. I kind of need to make a design out of it. And they were really kind and they sent me too much yarn, way too much. They were really generous. And so I started designing with said yarn. And the first yarn I'm trying is sea cell cotton. And I did talk about that yarn when I received it a few episodes ago. And this is a blend of 75% cotton and 25% tencel, lyocell. And it's a lyocell made from algae. So I was really curious about this because If you watched last episode, you know that me and cotton, it's I like it, but I don't know. And I was really curious to see if the blend with lyocell would make any difference, because the thing with tencel, lyocell, same thing, it's really drapey. And so I wanted to see if it sort of fixed what I didn't like so much about cotton. And I have started a design. I have started a summer tank top, sleeveless top vest. And so the thing is, pristine, so these socks that I showed you at the beginning of the episode, this motif here, this seed stitch motif with the leaf design, really simple thing. Originally I wanted to make a stole with it, like a huge scarf. It was supposed to be the motif for my Alma Venus wrap, which I released in February, I think. But I ended up changing it. But I still really liked that motif, so I used it for the socks. And then I thought it would look nice in summer top as well. So that's what I'm doing. I am doing a sleeveless summer top with, I think, sort of a V neck. But I want it to be a soft V. So more like a U. If it's a V with not a sharp end, it's a U, right? I want a loose, flowy, summery top with like a low neck that's reversible, like on both sides, because I want it to be free and airy and loose and drapey and blah blah blah. So I'm knitting it flat because I kind of like knitting flats now. I kind of want to seam stuff. I don't know. Don't get me wrong, my top down raglans still pretty much love them, but knitting flat, especially for summer tops, I think it's really nice, because if you use really drapey yarn, some of them are a plant fiber, maybe it's a good thing to add some structure with the seams. I don't know. So I'm knitting it flat, and I started on what will be the back, even though it's going to be the same back and front, and I started with that motif, and I really like how it's looking. It has a really great crisp definition. It's really, really neat. Really, really cool. The thing is, cotton, it's a bit stiff for me, and this isn't. This is really drapey. It's even a bit too soft. So I'm really curious to see how it blocks, because obviously I didn't make a swatch. I'm designing. Why would I swatch? No, I just wrote some numbers from my size, and the thing is, I want to see how the whole piece blocks, because it's quite different since it's gonna be big, and then I'm gonna grade it properly for the other size. Don't worry, I'm a professional. No, but well, yes, but we do what we can, right? Yeah, so it's really drapey, which is nice, because I really want it to be flowy. I want to have quite some ease, and I don't want it cropped. I would like it to be a normal length, and the thing is, if it's a normal length and it needs to have ease, it needs to accommodate my hips, and I'm quite pear-shaped, so quite pear-shaped. No, I'm the pearest of pears. It's absolutely ridiculous. You can't see it, but let me tell you. And so it needs to have a lot of drape and flowiness, because I don't want to put in shaping with the motif. I could. I'm considering making a split hem. I'm not sure yet. Another advantage of knitting it flat is that I'm going to be able to figure this out later. But yeah, I just want it to be flowing and drapey, so it's quite nice that it's so drapey and soft. So that's really cool. And the other thing that I usually really don't like with cotton yarns is that since they're made of a lot of plies, it tends to split all the time, and it's quite nasty. This doesn't. It does split a little bit, basically when I cast it on, when you do your long tape cast on, you sort of twist the yarn constantly in the same direction, and so you end up untwisting it and undoing the plies. And so that's what happened when I cast it on, but not so much, right? It didn't do it a lot. And then when I'm knitting it, it's really, really pleasant to knit with. It doesn't split that easily. Maybe it would if I was using my higher sharp, but I'm using simple Addi needles they're still the Addi lace, so they're not super blunt, but they're not too sharp either. And it's not splitting. It splits maybe twice in all of this, whereas usually with cotton it splits like every other stitch. If you're not careful, but here I have trouble finding where it's split. It's usually when I knit cotton, it's like every other stitch is like a ply has fallen, it's not right, I need to pick it up. But here I can't see it. So yeah, pretty good for that. I don't know if it's the lyocell, the tencel or content, or if it's just plied better, but it's holding itself much better. And the fabric looks really good. So yeah, I'm really liking it. It's really fun to knit. I'm making a slipped edge to seam it easily later. And yeah, since it's seed stitch anyway, knitting flat, knitting in the round, it doesn't make that much of a difference. It will be also pretty easy to change in case you would like to knit the body in the round. But I just wanted to make things in pieces for once. So yeah, this is a summer top, which I hope will look really nice once it's finished. But I already really like this, so I'm looking forward to continuing it. It has a name. It's gonna be Galice, like the Galicia, the Spanish region, because summery vibes. Yeah, I'm Spanish. I have the rights. Well, my family is Spanish, but yeah, no, I really like it, and I'm looking forward to continuing it. So I think that's it. I think that is all I wanted to share with you for this episode. Yeah, that's it. I thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you again quite soon. I should record in like a week and a half or something for my birthday, which is on the 1st of June. I will have a little event to announce. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you again for those who are new around here. Welcome. I hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.